What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode number 10 of the Just Work podcast. We are here today again with another topic. Today we're going to go over, what's the title of this? Kind of like what happens after. We'll get into more of the meaning of that in just a sec. I'm your host, Charles.
I'm your co-host, Richard.
And we're just going to go right into what I was talking about. So what happens after? Initially what I mean, like what happens after you achieve what you want to achieve, and maybe it's not so like huge. Maybe it's like a regular obtainable goal, something like that. Or, I mean, by all means, if you're being oppressed to the idea that you should make realistic goals, that's pretty dumb. Like, not dumb, but it's, if you have bigger goals, but someone already told you and you already put in your head that you should reach for realistic goals, rethink how you're thinking things, because you could fail at something you didn't even want to do. That's a real thing. So fail at something you actually like want to do. Mm-hmm. Let's start off there. But what I'm talking about, like what happens after, is like what happens after in the sense if I bench 600-700 pounds, what happens? Like what have I gained? What have I learned? What is the outcome of that? Because in my end of a goal there's really no money involved there. Mm-hmm. It's just I did something in which cost me a lot of time, hard work, health. I had to gain weight to do it. I have to get stronger, and it loss of time with family, that type of stuff. Like the idea here is like being able to deal with the ramifications of what happened yesterday and being okay with that. Like being able to say no to not go party, instead go rest. Being able to say no to seeing family because you have work to do that's due the next day that you have to get done for a presentation of something in what you want to do. Being able to deal with ramifications of not being able to come home earlier because you have to get the work at the office done, or the work at what you're doing done. If you work like catering events, being able to stay there all day, do that, and maybe not see your friends. Like being able to deal with the ramifications of getting to where you want to be, because there's no pretend that there is ramifications of going all in on something and tunnel visioning your goal, because you can't see the outside. You can only see what you're doing, and when you really get serious about stuff. Mm-hmm. So the idea here is like, how do we deal with the ramifications of that? Because there is going to be time lost, there's going to be family time lost, friend time lost, money lost, even health lost, even not like, but like time taken off for the stress, the effort, that type of deal.
Yeah. I think, in order to be really good at something or to be the best at something, it's gonna require some sort of sacrifice, right, so to speak, right? And it's a lot like how you mentioned with time with family, your own health, time with like not going out. For an example, like powerlifting, right? We're always gonna draw back to powerlifting, right? Because that's what we can relate to. Or like wrestling, we can't be drinking and partying all the time because that's just not. We don't have the necessary room to do that because it's gonna fuck up our recovery and training. And it's just something that we're not going to do. Now, if you want to strive to be the best, 600-700 pounds, that's a big number. That's a pretty fucking big number. In order for you to get there, though, is what I'm doing right now is a reflection of what, like, that goal is. Like, how am I going to get there? So is drinking...
finish up that question.
Yeah, and like that is drinking and partying all the time, key word right there, all the time, is that going to get me to the 700-600 pound bench, or is it going to get me to that job that I want? Is it going to help me finish the degree that I want? All that stuff. You got to ask yourself that question. And the answer is no, then you might have to sacrifice it. And if you're not willing to sacrifice it, then you're going to have to reevaluate your goals. Yeah. As simple as that.
Reevaluate. I feel like we should reevaluate our ambitions. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like it's not something outrageous to say that some of us have bigger ambitions than others.
Of course, and there's nothing wrong. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong
because I feel like the motive, like what I've seen so far is like you'll get like demoralized or like put down if you didn't have big ambitions to do. Like that's kind of like the message that I feel like is coming across.
Yeah.
But you're not objective to have those big ambitions. Like that is a certain group of people in which, like, you have to have that. You have to have a high stress tolerance to be able to have giant ambitions.
Yeah.
Because with ambition comes stress. That's how it works. You have to be able to manage it. If you can't manage that, that comes to an overwhelming amount of unhappiness, and then that ambition that you didn't have transformed into stress, transformed into unhappiness, and now you don't want to be where you wanted to be.
Right.
So you have to like this is where like the self-awareness thing for you has to like really be dialed in. Like, are you willing to be able to handle all that and still want what you want? Because if you just want what's in the end of the rainbow and not go through the whole thing, it's not going to work. There's no straight shot. You have to go through it. Or at the what's at the end of the tunnel, something like that. But there's going to be bumps, going to be walls, going to be shit you have to climb through. And if you're not big on ambition or big on work ethic, like till it's done, like it's going to be very hard to be mentally stable with yourself to do that. And especially if it's something you don't actually even want to do and you're pressured into doing.
Right.
But it's like when your mom's like, you're going to be a lawyer and you're in law school and you're like, I fucking don't like this. That is hard.
That's hard.
And that's hard to call your mom and dad and be like, I don't want to be a lawyer. And it's harder even to the fact that you're almost done.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to someone who's like 25 right now that's sitting there and they're like, I have 2 more years left. I've already put in this much time and I don't want to do it. And you already know that. All I'm saying is, in the big aspect of time, those 5 to 6, 7 years is not worth the next 30.
Right.
Of sitting there and being like, I didn't want to do this and I didn't, now I regret doing it. And I finished through and it wasn't what I wanted. And sure, there's a nice paycheck after it, but it doesn't matter if you get a paycheck for doing something you hate.
Right.
Eventually, you'll find a reason not to go to work or not to be happy. I mean, and that's hard. So that's the big one of it. So I feel like they've pressured so much. Like where I see like you gotta have big ambitions and big goals. Like, and obviously, if you do want to get out of like a rut and get out of being behind in life and get out of being out of society, you need to evolve into a big ambition. I mean, that's just how it works. If you want your mom's house to be paid for and you to be paid for and your children to have wealth, you have to deal with having a big ambition. That is a thing. Yeah. But that's not for everybody. It's not even for the vast majority of people, because being able to just be happy is just as useful as being happy with a big ambition.
Right.
So you have to, like the work-life balance there is like, has to be dialed in. You have to know you before you make those steps.
Right, and I think you brought up a really good point about being self-aware, you know, and it goes to show, you know, like you said, if you're going to dream big, you know, expect big work, you know what I mean? It's going to have to come with it, and I think you brought up such a good point about that self-awareness and having that, knowing when to kick it into gear and go 0 to 100 and then when to dial back a little bit, and my mentor talks about how you should always plan your work around your life, not your life around work, and it's such a simple statement and phrase, but I think it's so powerful, because I think, especially with the hustle culture, work culture, and I know that I've definitely bought into it, and I kind of live it a little bit too, is we work till our fucking face bleeds off. And for some people, and I'm starting to notice this about myself, that's just not it for me. I'm not built to work 20 hours a day. And some people are. I've seen some crazy people. Like one of my old bosses and good friends, like when he started up his business, he told me, he's like, yeah, I lived off like, you know, Reigns and Red Bull for weekends, and I would just work till my eyes bleed, you know, to the point where I couldn't blink. You know, you ever drink too much caffeine, you don't get enough sleep, and you're just sitting here like,
oh, hey.
What's going on? You know, but, you know, and that's not for everyone. And it's finding that balance, because the thing is, though, when you have these big goals, you're gonna have to know the sacrifices, the consequences. And what that is, though, is sometimes, is this worth sacrificing time with my family and friends? Because, like, we always talk about how time is such a valuable asset that you will never get back. And is this worth giving up time with my mom or my dad or my family or loved one that I may not ever get back?
I think it's also like a push thing. Like, say, I mean, obviously, like, the biggest thing right now is either like the biggest way to get the easiest and quickest, or like the biggest way to get out of financial restraints is like kind of what we're all in. We all got put behind debt, schools, stuff like that. We've all been put into these mindsets of we have to get a job, work 9 to 5, get paid. Like, the easiest way is business, starting a business, real estate.
Investing.
Just
investing.
Those are
quadrants. Those
are the 3 quadrants, which are the easiest way out. But in order to aspect what Rich was talking about like not sacrificing family time, you kind of have to get through your head, like, being the objective of being like, people have like this big idea of like being a millionaire is like so big, but to make $1 million a year, to have that is crazy. I mean, to think how much money it is. Think about, like, I've been living off of a $24K salary, or like a $25K, 28 maybe my top, like, living for 2-3 years now, and it's not a bad life. I don't wake up like oh, I don't have anything, oh, that, like, I could eat, I have a car, I can drive places, I go to work, I have, like, responsibilities, I can buy certain things, like, it's not so horrible, but to say that you need to go so far, like, to know that that is a limitation in which you can place on yourself of how much overhead you have on yourself is so demoralizing to, like, your goals.
Yeah.
To say, like, oh, I opened a business, but it's not making me $1 million, like, what's wrong with 80K?
Yeah.
If you could pay overhead and you're happy being there, maybe the stress isn't even worth going there.
I will gladly take a 20% pay cut to do something that I like and that I don't hate.
And I feel like that's
yeah.
a problem with society. Is a lot of people think the money is the North Star, and then they are not willing to take that pay cut. I mean, I could take a 50% pay cut and
Shit,
be
I might even take
happy.
50. Yeah.
Happiness, like, once you've been unhappy in life, like, the well-being of that should be enough to motivate you to do work for less money.
Yeah.
Like, that's fair game to say, I think. I don't think it's too far-fetched. I mean, you got to think of, like, people who open up bakery shops and, like, like, those don't make you millions of dollars unless they're, like, top high-end notch, but most people don't start off there. But they make good money. Mm-hmm. You can pay bills, you can live in a nice house, you can have things to eat, I mean, and you're happy. But maybe pushing it to opening up a second one isn't something that's worthwhile to you. Because the added stress, I mean, but you're going to take a loss then.
Yeah.
But if the gain is going to be worth more, like, detrimental to your mental state, then why is that worth it?
Right.
Because I talk about ambition, maybe you do have some amount of ambition, because I feel like there's different levels of ambition of where you want to go. Mm-hmm. Like, some people, like, if we relate this to lifting, some people want to bench 315. Some people want to bench 405, some people want to bench 495, some people want to bench 585. Look at the difference there.
Yeah.
To say that there's no ambition in any of those, no, there's just less in each.
Yeah. Or it depends
or
on
there's the same amount and there's a different circumstance of which it is.
Exactly.
So you have to take that into account of, like, don't buy into all, like, you have to be, the ambition is so far ahead. Like, the ambition could be a certain drop goal in which you can do things, because having an ownership of, like, a restaurant, or, like, having an ownership of, like, a business, even something small, side hustle, something hobby, and making $40K a year, $50K a year, and living happy off that, being able to see your family, being able to see your kids, being able to see, like, what goes on in your life, is very good place to live.
Yeah.
And maybe you're not building wealth, but you have to look at how they see things. If you make $400K a year and you don't see any of your family, you don't even know your children, like,
yeah,
that's a lot worse detrimentally to your child's life, to your life, your spouse's wife, who you're with, your parents. Yeah. Because once we move out of our parents' house, you got to think you only see them so many times. Yeah. Me, like, I moved out when I was probably like when I just turned 19, but I only ever see them, like, once a week or once every 2 weeks. And I guarantee you, like, when people grow up even further, it becomes once a month, and then it becomes once every couple months, holidays, once a year, once every 2, and then, like, you really start to think about, like, the time you have with the people that actually love you.
Yeah.
Like, and that's a lot less when you think of it, oh, my parents are still here and they made it to 65, like, I spent 65 years with them. No, you spent 20, and then you spent 1 day or 2 days, or then if you add that up, you basically spent 21 years if you add it all up.
Right.
Because that means you'd have to see them 365 days for the next 40 years, and you only seen them 21 years.
Right.
If you think about, like, your loved ones, your family, same with your kids. If you're not there every day and you only see, like, I'm on a business trip, but, like, I feel like we just have to take the idealism of, like, that makes money and that's capital and now I'm going to be rich and that type of stuff, and put it in the ramifications of, like, you don't know your child.
Yeah.
You don't know your family anymore. Like, you're so far away, and, like, that creates a lot of problem, because at the end of the day, when you take away the money, you take away the house, you take away the material thing, who do you have?
Yeah.
You have your loved ones.
Or even when you die.
Even when you die, who shows up there? Your money doesn't show up when you die.
There's no value to you.
You can't bury it with you. Like, your houses won't show up when you die. If anything, someone in your family's like, cool, I got a house.
Yeah.
Like, that's how that goes.
Yeah.
But you have to think about that. Who's going to show up then? Because that's what matters.
Yeah. And
so I think, like, the whole, like, where Gary Vee came from on, like, a lot of stuff is, like, where the kindness and empathy comes in more. Yeah. It's like, be more okay with, like, being kind and empathetic for things and more people showing up at your funeral than having more money than others. or reaching more goals that are so far that you lose connection with actual humility and kindness with people. Because to affect people's lives and to make money are two different things.
Right. And you know, and everyone has like different goals for like the reasons why they want to be. They have different reasons why they want to be ambitious or successful or whatever, right? And I'm gonna quote my mentor a lot because obviously I hold high respect, high regard to him. But, you know, he talks about how you need to be kind of like that knight in shining armor. You know, and what I mean by that is not putting shit on the pedestal like we talked about in our last episode, or about the minimalism or whatever. How money, everything, all that should not be put. This job, this whatever. As at the end of the day, you need to be happy with yourself. You know, you need to be. This is your drive. Like it has to come from within.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that for me, like for an example, the reason why I want to be successful is because I want to make an impact. And the more money you have, simply because it's a tool, right? The more impact, the more money you have, the more of an impact you can make into the world, into your communities, and that's one of the reasons why I want to be successful and stuff like that. But at the same time, too, though, I understand even though that takes a lot of hard work, I'm not willing to sacrifice. I'm willing to put that on the back burner a little bit if that means I get to spend more time with my kids, and my future family, whatever it may be, because that's what I hold important to myself too as well.
However you hold it, and then like also the idea of like kind of crushing the Wall Street thing is which you make it to the top, and how you made your money was running over people.
Yeah.
Like a lot of it up there in the big leagues is definitely like I eat you, you eat me.
Dog eat dog world.
That kind of stuff, but you have to be willing to deal with the ramifications of putting something else down, like destroying something to build up. And if that's not worth what the money is, and obviously this is capitalism, there's always change,
right.
But there's a good way to do something, there's a bad way to do something, because
Right.
you can do both.
Well, if you do the scorched earth, like with like that dog eat dog, like that ruthless world, then I think in business, a lot of it
There's a lot of it that has to happen because business is business.
Ruthless.
And you have to know that it is business relationships.
Yeah, and the thing is, like though, but if you go to an approach where like a scorched earth, where I'm gonna like take advantage and burn everyone, you will get far. I'm not saying you won't. You will get far, but it will be alone. You will be very. It will be very lonely up there.
That's my thing. Like if it takes you everything and then you burn everyone down, and you sit at the top of the mountain alone. What that wasn't fucking worth anything.
What did you gain from that?
You didn't gain shit. You have dollars. That doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
Go ahead and buy all the Rolls Royces. No one's gonna give a fuck if no one's behind you.
Yeah, you're a piece of shit.
Like sacrificing who you are for cash or for status or for clout or for anything, net worth or anything like that. Like that doesn't make any sense to me of why you would do such a thing, because who you are is going to be what's really going to matter, like at the end of it. Like I'd rather affect 80 individuals on a personal intellectual level, like, and help them through life than have $80 million.
Same. Yeah.
That makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
Because that means there's 80 more individuals that are going to be better at life, learn how to be more financially stable, less stressed, raise better kids.
Right.
They'll just be more in tune with them.
Right.
That makes more sense to me than what $80 million can do.
Right.
Because, I mean, of course, like, and I'm not saying, like, there isn't people at the big game not changing things, because, I mean, if you look at Bill Gates over there, like, fighting malaria, fighting water problems, he's definitely taking a big source of this problem, but that's two different things, because there's two different ways around it.
Right.
And so there's humility when you go through it, and there's not. And a lot of the stature of, like, what you see is, like, people just running through without humility for others and just taking everything down. Mm-hmm. And sure, that's going to come with a lot of perks and stuff like that, and you drive nice cars and you have a big house, but at the end of it, who's sitting there at the end with you?
Right.
So that's not ideally worth it. So it's kind of like what happens at, like that's the thing of the top. Like what happens after what happens. So I feel like to attain your goal but keep the most of you involved in it is like what the ideal kind of situation is. Like to reach for it, and also like life, like sometimes it's just about the journey.
Yeah.
Sometimes your life is more meaningful to have that goal go all the way and almost make it fail, and then that's it. Yeah. Sometimes that whole thing right there was worth it. Because say you did all that, you met hundreds of people, thousands of people that you changed their lives, but you failed right there at the end. Mm-hmm. What was more impactful?
Yeah.
You not getting what you wanted, or all those people you just changed their lives?
Yeah.
So you have to think of like different types of stuff. So I think that's ideal for me. Is like reaching to as far as you want to be, but not losing in touch with who you want to be.
Yeah, and I
Like
think
how you represent yourself as a human being.
and then now shifting it from a more outside to more inside now, right? Like looking back, remember that Matthew McConaughey that you always see on Instagram, my hero in like 10 years
Yeah.
from now. I think when you do reach that goal, if you do, reach that goal, and I think you should always be striving to always improve yourself. Always like, remember, because I remember what I know you memorize like that quote. It's like in 10 years.
So I guess Matthew McConaughey's uncle asked him, who's your hero when he was like a kid,
Yeah.
which is the big thing, and then he's like, oh, it's me at 25.
Yeah.
And then he gets to 25 and he comes back and he's like, who's your hero? And he's like,
Me at 35.
oh fuck, I'm not a hero. And he's like, me at 35. And then he gets there again and he's like, me at 45. I'm not even close to where I was like trying to be, but
Yeah.
you always have to level up your ability. Who's your hero? What's your goal? And your goal will always level up, because if you have a goal and you're so simple-minded to think that you'll just stop there, there's a lot of emptiness that comes with that. To not be trying to obtain something as a human.
Right.
Like we all, like if you think about it, we're all trying to obtain something, whether it's dumb and it's just cash, cars, girls, men, things, material
Objects,
things, or
material, yeah, right.
status, clout, like lifts, impacts. Like we're all chasing something.
Of course. Right.
The next high. I mean, even in a drug situation, you're chasing something.
Yeah.
That's a thing. But once you obtain that and you don't place another thing in front of it, or you just stop, like the emptiness that you fill with is worth nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's never going to feel good then.
Right.
So you're always going to level up. Same with what he was saying, like in the next 10 years, the next 10, you're always going to level it up. So you have to be willing to, but that also comes with big ambitions.
Right.
So if you don't want to go that far, then you can level up in another area of your life.
Yeah.
There's all fucking different areas in which you can go and level stuff up, but you just have to pick which lane you go with and not be so worried about the other ones you didn't pick.
Right. So to bounce off that though, because I know a lot of our listeners and viewers are generally on the younger side, right? And if they do have big ambitions or whatever, or they have goals, just goals in general, right? And I know the hardest step is the first step, right? What would you say to them? Like how do I take that hard step, or how do I take that first step into my goal, or how do I find my path?
Not even just like younger audience. I feel like that's for a lot of people that have been very told like what to do with their whole life, and now they're seeing that fucking an 8-year-old can build Legos on YouTube and get paid $1 million. Like you're seeing things like that didn't make any sense to you back in 1950, but nowadays that's a real true thing that happens.
Yeah.
And so you really start to think like, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
I say the best way, and I talked to like even my girlfriend had trouble with this. It's like you have to find someone in which has done what you want to do, or at least has what you want to have. But even when you think of materialistic things like that, you have like nowadays the internet and content has put so many routes in which you could see different areas of the same person you'd like to see yourself to be, or wish you had, or that kind of stuff. You see routes, and so. The biggest thing for me is know the top end goal, know where that's at, and don't focus on it. Don't even worry about it anymore. Like my goal, bench 700 pounds. I've already scratched that off the list if it was done and it already happened and it's done. So now I can worry about the next step to doing that. Because if I'm conflicted about the next step in that step, I'm lost, because there's so much room in between those two. So now I have to think ahead. I can't think ahead like that.
Right.
I have to put the goal in my head, which is there, realize it's already done, and make that next step every single time. And so I'm only worried about where I'm moving forward. So for me, it's like, who's done what I've done?
Right.
Or who's done what I want to do?
Right.
Or who's done the impact that I want to make?
Right.
Like who has done it already, and kind of follow that lead, or at least make efforts in which you know yourself can do. Like everyone knows that reading a book a night is going to make you a little bit better as a person, if not smarter, more knowledge of words, a better speaker, stuff like that, or even skills, learning about things you'd like to wish you knew about. So finances, learning about if you like to post and create content, learning about how to post and create content, learning about how to be better if you want to be a YouTube sensation, or learning about how to be a better lifter for us in a sense, or learning how to be a better soccer player, how to be a better chess player, how to be a better teacher. Like that's all out there to teach you. So if you don't know your next step, pick something you know you're weak at. Me right now, I've got a state record in bench. My triceps are weak. I already knew that. What are we doing? Close grip.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. That's the goal. That's the next step. Make sure your triceps are bulletproof.
Mm-hmm.
That's the step for me. But whatever that is to you, you have to, if you can't see someone's route, find your weakness that you know. And we should, as humans, I feel we do have the ability to have enough self-awareness to know what we're weak at, pick it, and just go ham on it. I feel like that's the best way to get yourself moving, because by that time you're getting better at something and you have an ideal of like what you know you need to get better at. By that time you should be gathering more thoughts about what's the next step.
Mm-hmm.
Because then after that I know my incline sucks.
Right.
I should be training that then.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that I know my rows suck and you need your back to be strong. That's the next step after that. I mean, physical things are a bit more cut forward, but even if you do like a mental thing, like even me as a 16-year-old, I know I have anger issues.
Mm-hmm.
Be kind to yourself, because in the real aspect of it, you're not kind to yourself, and that's why you're mad first.
Right.
And so you feel objected to be pushed down because you've been pushed down, so now you push yourself further down. Unfix that. Be nice, even if it's the smallest thing, to look yourself in the mirror and be like, you look good today, you brushed your teeth today, you woke up today. Those small steps are all going to lead somewhere that's going to be better for tomorrow, and then it's the next day, and then the next day, which leads into patience. Like, you have to know that there's time involved in this step to that last step, which you want to go, and know that each day just focus on one thing to get a little bit better at.
Yeah.
And that's how, like, to solve a crazy algebra problem or calculus problem, focus on one area and then focus on the next tomorrow, and then get the next, and then it's just steps.
Yeah.
With that though, we're going to take a commercial break, brought to you by... Alright, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Just Work Podcast. We left off there with the commercial break from Gatorade, which is gone now. Whoops. Well, sorry about that.
Recycle that bitch.
We recycle around here. We left off talking about figuring out that next step, where you want to go.
Always striving to get better.
Always striving to get
improving.
better. Find a weakness, make that, capitalize on it. That's necessarily the steps you need to take in which you have to get better, but always the best advice we can probably leave with is find someone who's done it and follow their path, because you can go through and see exactly how they've done it. Maybe they make some mistakes you might make, and then also fail.
Yeah.
I guess I would say try something and just fail at it and see how you feel and see what you can take from that. I mean, that's going to do very good, because I failed multiple times already, this fucking shit, and it leads you to a different direction of what you need to do.
I think, and we always will repeat this, that's why mentorship so important, you know? Even though dummy tax is paid, not necessarily you always have to pay it, you know?
Yep.
And again, it goes off what Charles said on back in episode, I think like 2, be all in, be not all in,
yeah.
you know? And I think that you got a tunnel vision towards the end goal, but be flexible and adaptive to how you get to that point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like a good analogy I really like to use is like, you know, I'm here and the door's right there or whatever, right? And that obviously I need to know I need to get past that door, I need to get out of this room. But if a chair comes in the way, I can always work around it, go around it. Or if there's multiple chairs in the way, I can figure out a way how to get over it, you know, and get to where I need to be, which is that door. I think like that's a really good thing that I like to talk to myself. But yeah.
And then the biggest thing is just doing. Just always make an effort. I mean, even if there's not a direction, there still needs to be an effort. Like, if I want to bench 700 pounds, should I not go to the gym or should I go to the gym? There should be an effort to go at least do what you think you should do. That'll lead you somewhere. At least if you have to do with mental health, maybe read a book about mental health. If it has to do with physical fitness, maybe do something that's around physical fitness. If it has to do with fighting, maybe it should be revolved around fighting for UFC. If it has to do with money, maybe take finance courses, or maybe look at spreadsheets, or maybe look at stocks. I mean, those are all things that are in the realm of what you could do next.
Dive into it, educate yourself.
Yeah.
But also, too, I understand, though, not everyone will know what the fuck to even do, though.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And when that happens, though, I feel like, when in doubt, just serve. What I mean by that is just help out others. And I guarantee you, from that point on, when you do something very fulfilling like that, it will put you on some sort of path. If you don't know what to do, Trust me, if you just do that, it will lead away. I think for me, drawing from my own personal experience, what I found about my passion with like helping others came from back in middle school, high school. We were mandated. It was mandatory for us to do community service. And I think we were only supposed to do like 20 hours each semester or so. Worked in the volunteer kitchen. I ended up spending over 100 something hours in there, and that's where I learned a lot about mental health. I didn't know at the time, but looking back at it now, that's where I learned about mental disabilities and stuff like that, and lower income or marginalized people, and how they don't get the necessary help and medication that they need.
Mm-hmm.
And looking back at it, it was very fulfilling work, and I think that led me to the path that I'm on right now. So providing service to others, I think, is a very powerful thing, especially when you don't know what you're doing.
Also, patience. The biggest thing is patience. Time will tell. I mean, time tells who the winner's going to be. Time will tell who's the one's going to quit. Time's going to tell if you're going to stay in the game.
If you're in it for the money, or if you're really in it for...
Time's going to tell. But you have to be patient with whatever your goals or ambitions are. That's how it goes.
Yes, sir.
You have to realize that maybe it's not going to happen tomorrow, the next week, or the next week, or the next week, or next month, next year. Maybe it happens in 10 years, but you still have to try.
Yeah.
You still have to attempt to get better every day. So, with that is pretty much wrapped up about what happens next, We talked about, like, the next step, like, the goals.
Yeah.
That kind of vibe and stuff.
Trying to
Kind of a
be
little
better.
serious one right there.
Yeah.
Hope everyone has a great day.
Yeah.
I'm your co-host, Charles.
I'm your other host, Richard. Stay safe out there.
Like, subscribe,
All that
comment
good
below,
stuff.
do the little bell
Yeah.
thingy. We're on Spotify too. Follow that. Updates come up all the time. Have a good day.
No, you
Just work, bitch.
yeah, come on, dude.
Sorry, I fucked that
God
up.
damn it.
Just work, bitch.
And wash your damn hands.